Welcome to Vintage Hollywood Archive, one of Hollywood's most beloved icons. The petite brunette beauty gave us some of the most emotionally charged performances in cinematic history, in films including Splendor in the Grass and West Side Story. It's been nearly 40 years since Natalie Wood's tragic and untimely death, but her star power has stayed. How Natalie Wood's over-controlled fame destroyed her. Make sure to watch the video until the end and leave your thoughts in the comments. If you are new here, join our wonderful community by subscribing to the Vintage Hollywood Archive channel. The secret that almost destroyed Natalie Wood. Natalie Wood's drowning was not an accident. If you're a Natalie Wood fan, there is so much to appreciate about her. Her flashing eyes, the no-nonsense intimacy of her acting. But if you ask what made her special, we think it had something to do with how she fused sensuality with a kind of sun-dazed warmth. It's tempting to compare her to Donna Reed or Doris Day, middle-class beauties who enveloped you in their wholesomeness. Yet, we also think of Natalie Wood the way we think of Elizabeth Taylor or Anne Margaret, as someone who could set a scene on fire. Natalie Wood was a transitional star, her career straddling Hollywood's awkward shift from the classic studio system to the independent free-for-all that continues to characterize film production today. Her face also seems frozen in transition from girl to woman. Wood was a child star, Oscar nominee, teen bride, and has-been, all before the age of 20, and her acting oscillated between the poignant and the hysterical, for which she was alternatively lauded and lampooned. But she had a work ethic, and ultimately survived studio manipulation to become a legend in her own right, starring in one of the most successful and seminal musicals of the past 50 years. She was best known for ingenue roles that traded on her youthful appeal. She continued to make a name for herself in Hollywood for decades, thanks to her glamorous style, tabloid-ridden romances, and Oscar-nominated performances. But Natalie Wood's demons and their origins reveal themselves as if released from a genie's lamp. Family violence, alcoholic father, pathological attachment to her Svengali stage mother, psychological abuse as a child star, paranoia, phobias, bedroom of storybook dolls she believed were alive and spoke to her, pimped at 15 to Frank Sinatra, forced to return an engagement ring to her high school sweetheart, who tried to kill himself afterward, exploited as a teenager into a sexual liaison with 42-year-old director Nicholas Ray to prove that she could play a bad girl in Rebel Without a Cause. It's a shame to say it, but Natalie Wood seems to be remembered more for her death than for her accomplishments in life. To understand what happened to her that last night in all of its dark Russian drama, people need to know Natalie's complete story. Long before the tragic boating accident, the actress battled several dark clouds hanging over her life. Starting at a young age, Natalie's world was filled with unfortunate influences taking advantage of her beauty and talent, even from her own family. It's heartbreaking to know how much she was forced to put up with throughout her life and career. Born Natalia Nikolaevna Zacharenko in San Francisco at the height of the Great Depression, Natalie Wood was one of those rare stars who combined old-school glamour, powerhouse talent, and smoldering sex appeal. Both her parents were Russian immigrants living in San Francisco, California. Wood's first acting jobs were uncredited roles in the 1943 films The Moon is Down and Happy Land. It was her performance in the latter, however, that caught the attention of director Irving Pitchell, setting the 4-year-old actress up for success. Starting her career at just 5 years old, Natalie was often the victim of her overbearing mother's attempts to fulfill her own dreams of stardom. Wood's mother played a significant role in her daughter's early career, coaching her and micromanaging aspects of her career even after Wood acquired agents. As Wood remembered her makeshift Hollywood education, "My mother used to tell me that the cameraman who pointed his lens out at the audience at the end of the Paramount newsreel was taking my picture. I'd pose and smile like he was going to make me famous or something. I believed everything my mother told me." At the height of her fame, Wood was extremely image-conscious, and she went to chilling lengths to keep her perfection. According to some sources, she wouldn't leave the house without a full face of makeup on, even if she was dashing out to get her mail. In 1945, Wood's mother moved the family to Los Angeles on the advice of Irving Pitchell. It was Pitchell who suggested that the young actress adopt the Americanized version of her name, Natalie, and changed her surname to Wood after director Sam Wood. She made a big splash in her first major film role as Margaret Ludwig in Tomorrow is Forever. She starred opposite Orson Welles, who referred to the young actress as so good she was terrifying. She followed her speaking role debut with multiple films that year in 1947. After starring as Susan Walker in Miracle on 34th Street, Natalie Wood was one of the few child actors able to grab hold of adult fame. At the age of 8, Wood's fate in Hollywood had been set. She never really had a childhood. She grew up, almost literally, on screen. She was working pretty much nonstop with over 20 films under her belt by the time she was 14. Maria even went so far as to keep her daughter from reporting a sexual assault from a powerful producer at just 16 years old. According to Wood's biographer and her sister, an incredibly powerful Hollywood actor assaulted her during an audition at the Chateau Marmont. Although the actor's name has never been released or definitively proven, accusers do have a main suspect, Kirk Douglas. After the success of Miracle on 34th Street, Wood's contract with 20th Century Fox was updated to $1,000 a week, with the plan that her payments would build for 7 years to $3,300 weekly. A 9-year-old Wood experienced a horrible accident on the set of The Green Promise. The actress fell through a broken bridge while filming a storm scene, nearly drowning. The incident left her with a protruding bone in her left wrist, as well as a lifelong fear of water. At the age of 16, Wood began filming one of her most famous films. She co-starred with Dean and Sal Mineo in the 1955 groundbreaking depiction of teenage rebellion and angst, Rebel Without a Cause. In the film, Wood played the girlfriend of a troubled outsider, played by Dean. She earned an Academy Award nomination for her work. As an actress under contract, she sometimes had to make movies that she didn't want to. Her mother also pressured her at times. One of her least favorite projects was The Searchers in 1956, a Western starring John Wayne. Wood felt she had been miscast as a white girl who was abducted and then raised by Native Americans. As the most beautiful teenager in the world, and as is typical of many child stars, Natalie Wood always liked a rebel. In 1956, when she was still a teenager, she briefly dated Elvis Presley. Hollywood makes you grow up way too fast. While idling around sets as a child, Wood got exposed to a lot of adult habits, not all of them good. When she was 16 years old, she took up smoking like it was going out of style. As one of her co-stars said, "I never saw Natalie without a cigarette, ever." She only quit when she was 40. During her heyday, insiders called Wood a Hollywood bad girl. According to rumors, she kissed 47 men before she turned 30. More disturbingly, she reportedly had an affair with the 43-year-old director Nicholas Ray when she was just 16. Although, to be fair, that really isn't on her. Wood got a disturbing present for her 18th birthday, a studio-arranged date with handsome 26-year-old actor Robert Wagner. As the actress herself confessed, she nursed a crush on the Hollywood heartthrob ever since she was a little girl. Not a single iota of this information is creepy in the slightest. Wood's mother never approved of her relationship with Robert Wagner, but that didn't stop the lovebirds from marrying in 1957. The same year, they started dating. In a move that shocked approximately no one in Wood's family, her teenage wedding to Wagner didn't last. After 4 years together, the couple separated. By 1962, they had officially called it quits. After a string of failures in girlfriend roles before she was 25 years old, directors thought Natalie Wood was a wash-up, and it didn't look like she could make a full transition into adult acting. Wood did not get out of child stardom unscathed. In a 4-year period, she had to get her stomach pumped 3 times after sleeping pill overdoses, all before she was 28 years old. As a result, she spent most of her late 20s and a long stretch of her 30s focusing on her mental health rather than Hollywood stardom. After finalizing her divorce to Robert Wagner, Wood splashed back into the dating pool in a big way. But why did they divorce? Her marriage was considered to be one of the best in Hollywood. The secret that was buried deepest inside Natalie's closet of skeletons was the shocking end of her fairy tale marriage. To protect his image, Natalie publicly took the fall for their sudden divorce. She never refuted fan magazine gossip that their marriage imploded over an alleged affair she had with her co-star Warren Beatty while filming Splendor in the Grass. She soon met and then married producer Richard Gregson, and the couple even had a daughter, Natasha, together. Sadly, it was far from happily ever after for Wood's second chance at love. In August 1971, Wood happened to overhear a phone call between her husband and his secretary, and it made her blood run cold. Though the exact content of the call is unknown, it was steamy enough to spur her divorce to Gregson, even as their daughter Natasha was still a vulnerable newborn. Natalie and Wagner reconciled and remarried a decade later, and Wood staged a comeback with the popular sex comedy Bob and Carol and Ted and Alice. But she acted only sporadically thereafter, with the television movie Cat on a Hot Tin Roof, and the miniseries From Here to Eternity providing her most notable performances. She won a Golden Globe Award for the latter. The world was shocked when she passed away in 1981 at just 43 years old. Word spread quickly about the mysterious circumstances surrounding her death while out at sea with her husband Robert Wagner and co-star at the time Christopher Walken. Even after all these years, there are many lingering questions that may never be answered. The circumstances surrounding the fatality are barely any clearer today than they were when the news first broke. The star's death was deemed accidental at the time, but now investigators aren't so sure. For many years, it has been a riddle which has gripped the world. Part love story, part tragedy. It has all the elements of a Hollywood blockbuster: a beautiful actress, a handsome leading man, a brooding sidekick, and a moment of sickening terror with the most horrific consequences. On November 29, 1981, the body of actress Natalie Wood was found floating in the Pacific Ocean off California's Catalina Island, in a flannel nightgown, a down jacket, and wool socks. It soon emerged that Wood had spent Thanksgiving aboard her yacht, Splendor, with Robert Wagner, her Brainstorm co-star Christopher Walken, and the ship's young captain, Dennis Davern, before an accident of some sort left her lifeless in the water. All four were heavily intoxicated, both aboard the ship and on land, after a dinner complemented by multiple bottles of champagne. It was determined an accidental drowning, despite the very suspicious circumstances. Many items on this list are confirmed facts. The world knows with absolute certainty alcohol and pills played a factor in the childhood actress turned Hollywood icon's death. It's also known Wood had a deep-seated terror of water and was fighting with Wagner that evening. Along with the facts are many questions surrounding her death. How did Wood wind up in the freezing water that night? Did she slip trying to retie the dinghy to the yacht? Did she simply fall overboard? How did she get all of the scratches found on her body? What was the exact relationship between Wood and her Brainstorm co-star Christopher Walken? The original 1981 coroner's report states the bruises found on Wood's face, wrist, knees, and ankles were from the actress trying to climb back into the yacht after falling over the side. When the case was reopened in 2011, it resulted in a new coroner's report stating the bruises occurred before Wood went into the water. The medical examiner, however, could not conclude if the bruises were non-accidental and may be the result of an assault. Wood's death was first ruled accidental. From the very beginning, Wood's sister Lana was dissatisfied with this conclusion. Despite the lingering uncertainty around the case, an intriguing development was revealed in February 2018. Robert Wagner was finally named as a person of interest in Natalie Wood's death. It may be all the closure fans and mourners of Natalie Wood will ever get. Weird celebrity deaths have fascinated the world for decades. The tragic mystery of Natalie Wood's death may never be solved. There are so many varying versions of the events on that fateful night. Who is lying? Who is telling the truth? Who, if anyone, can be trusted? As a self-described dutiful child, Natalie was trained by her mother to keep silent, not to rock the boat. As she got older, she kept her silence, often to protect others, as was Natalie's way. During her life, in death, and even after her death, no one that I could see had ever protected her. Certainly not her mother, the directors who exploited her, the studio executives who looked the other way, the men who abused her, or the sheriff's detectives and coroner's examiners investigating her drowning. In the archive of forgotten facts, hidden truths, and concealed evidence about Natalie Wood, what is most shocking is Robert Wagner's role in her drowning. The man that Natalie married not once but twice, who would often say, with glass raised, "She takes my breath away," refused to search for 2.5 hours after she went missing from their boat in the waters off Catalina Island. What really happened? Despite reopening the case decades later, police seem to be no closer today than they were in 1981. No one has been charged with Natalie Wood's death, and it doesn't seem likely anyone ever will be. The first is a performer who, despite the translucent beauty of so many of her performances, knew how to control her image and fight for her rights in a Hollywood system that was anything but egalitarian. Wood's true legacy: the extraordinary charm and fire she brought to the screen, beginning with her first roles as a child actor in the 1940s. If you like this video, don't forget to give it a thumbs up and subscribe if you are new here.